Good evening. Call to order the November 13th, 2017 meeting of the Arlington Redevelopment Board, recorded by ACMi. First on our agenda this evening is public hearing on EDR special permit docket number 3545, 8789 Broadway, Arlington, obviously, B2 neighborhood district, B2 neighborhood business district. So the proponents are here. Have them come forward and introduce yourselves, please.
My name is Zeke Brown. I'm the architect for the project. This is Kevin Flynn, the owner. What we have designed here is a 4-story mixed-use building. What we've done is we have three-bedroom apartments on the upper floors from 2, 3, and 4. Those are 1,675 square feet each, and we have a small commercial space on the first level, about 1,200 square feet. We've tried really hard to have this proposed building meet all of the zoning requirements. So the setbacks are being met, the buffer zones are being met. Mr. Bunnell, I think it's a B4 district, not a B2, but we've got B4 to the right and to the left. In addition to meeting all of our setbacks and our FAR and our height requirements, we're also providing the required number of parking spaces in the back, which is 6. Because the building, the commercial space is under 3,000 square feet, there's no parking requirement or loading dock requirement for that. So we have 6 parking spots. They are partly underneath the building in the back and partly outboard. And in this way, we were able to get our turning radiuses to work with the driveway in and out. I think the site is sort of an interesting one in that it's right between a bunch of 3-decker residential buildings towards Cambridge, and then on the other side is sort of a run of commercial projects. And so we figured, picking up on some of the typology of the triple-decker, by stacking 3 apartments there, we were kind of working with the site conditions a little bit and bringing a small commercial space closer to the street, helping to define that street edge is something that we did at the neighboring property, Learn to Grow. And I think, that pretty much sums it up. Yeah. Kevin, do you have anything to add?
I don't know.
Andy.
Okay, I'd like to let the next guy go.
All right.
I'm okay for now.
Ken, go
Make
ahead.
him back, Ken.
Well, okay. I am very supportive of this project. I think I like it. I'm saying I think it's sort of following very much the what we're trying to establish here, this commercial in this sort of mixed-use zone here, and encourage development here. I think you took it and you did really well.
Thank you.
Okay. Now I'm just going to ask some questions. Okay. One was your trash locations in the back. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're expecting people to come down the rear stair and just throw the trash out there, and then you drag it down the alleyway there, or you drag it across the parking lot and out?
Yeah.
And so these are rentals or condos?
I think that they'd be condos.
They would come, so it's part of the condo association that will take care of that. I don't know. I just find it a little hard to see that people living on all 4 floors will walk down the stairs and throw the trash way back there. They might just find it someplace more convenient. So where you show the trash now might be different where they actually end up using it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that building a little pen for trash barrels and providing a 55-gallon rolling bucket, bin for each unit. I mean, I don't know. And it could be written into the condo docs that the trash storage happens in this zone back here, if you provide an area for it.
Is the trash hauled by the city or by private?
This would be town.
The town.
It's
the
the
town.
town, it's the town.
So it would be.
Except for the commercial.
Yes, but then it will be these. It won't be a 55-gallon trash container. Then it'll be whatever the 35. Is it 35?
It's those rolling.
It's what are the requirements? You can't just get these big jumbo things. Some guy has to be able to dump it into.
Yeah, they're big gray rolling bins. I've got a couple in my house.
Okay.
Just roll them out.
Well, I have some concerns about that. Okay, and if you're saying that you're gonna fence it off somehow and make that the designated area, yeah, I suppose I can sort of live with that. Okay, I mean, I just don't want these trash cans migrating to the front, where they come down the elevator, come out the front door, and they just throw it out there and it's off to the side somewhere, right by the side yard between the houses.
Right.
I just see that just happening, and
Yeah.
I think that can be enforced with a condo doc.
okay, I don't want to encourage that.
Yeah.
That part there. And then on your parking, do you need a little, at the end of the driveway, do you feel like you need a little 5-foot indent so the last car can do that sweep and do the 3-point turn and out? Otherwise, he's backing out all the whole way. You following me?
Yeah, I am following. Yeah, you're talking about right here.
Yep.
Yeah, we've got enough room to add a couple more feet to the driveway. I was trying to, minimize the amount of asphalt in there and leave as much green space as possible, but that would certainly make it easier to make a turn.
So if you had that, it doesn't get taken away from the required open space, right?
I'd have to look at my numbers. So just hold on, let's see what my numbers say. I'll tell you if we're close or not. It's not applicable. Open space percentage is not applicable.
Okay.
So we can add a little wing to the driveway in that zone to make that.
I think you would end up that way anyways, because when you plow the snow, you're just going to push it straight out,
Right.
and it's not going to, I mean, even if you plan to have green space there, it's just going to
Right.
be brown mud space. All right, and then on this plan right here, the elevator lobby on the first floor. Yes. Don't you think it'd be nicer if you had a window there instead of a?
In here?
Yeah, just let some natural light in that space there.
Yeah. I'm in favor of windows.
I just thought, it's a pretty long
Yeah.
procession
Okay.
back there, and having some sort of light back there sort of draws you back there, and it makes it a little nicer back there. So it's not like a dark closet you're going into.
Yep.
It feels safer, and
Yep.
All right, and then on your elevations, can you pop up your elevations? Don't get too long to tell me.
That's why I pass it on to you.
Are you showing the elevator override right now, or?
Yes, in a very subtle line right here, we've got our elevator override.
All right, so that's all that's going to override. It's not. I'm not going to see something that sticks out another 4 or 5 feet.
No, you're not going to see another thing that sticks out 4 or 5 feet.
Okay. I noticed on that elevation there, that's the side where all the mechanical rooms are.
This side, yeah.
Are you going to have vents on those sides there for
Yes, we
the?
will. Yes, we will have vents.
Okay, and that's far enough away from the windows.
It has to be. You're quizzing me on my code knowledge. I'm gonna have to look that one up.
Just say
I
it
think
will be far enough away.
It will be far enough.
Okay.
Well, it has to be far enough away, but it's 5 feet, I think, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, and then on your plans, you show fireplaces. So best, no,
Yes.
stay on the elevation right there,
Yeah.
the front elevation there, okay? Are you
Yeah.
gonna have direct vent out to the front, or are you gonna have chimney up to the roof?
I think we're gonna go up and we do it up here. We'd have them all coming out up there.
So
Yeah.
there'll be an appendage that sticks up there somewhere with some.
Yeah, but it'd be low. because these are gas units, they're not actual wood burning units.
Okay. And then on your last elevation, still on the side elevation there?
This one or
Yeah.
this one? This one?
Yeah, just to the right there, you just neglected to show the remaining of the elevation, right? The elevation that's at an angle.
Which side? This side or this side?
Well, elevation number 4. If you look straight on there, right? If you look on the north elevation, that chunk sticks out a little further.
This one right here?
No, the other side, where the bedroom is, where the master bedroom is.
Yes.
That's a skewed wall.
Yes.
So
That's this right here.
yeah, so it would show up on that north elevation, right? Or no?
It would show up on this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, maybe a very
A sliver, right?
small, tiny
like-
sliver. Yeah.
So it
It'd
does stick out.
It'd be a tiny sliver.
Okay, I don't know, was it innie or outie, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I apologize for
That's fine.
that slight variation. There was some last minute jiggering that happened, so.
Okay. And then, I promise, this is my last question.
Hey, you're thorough. That's good.
On the decks you got up front there,
Yeah.
is that the actual spacing you're gonna have for the framing for that deck?
You mean the railings?
Not the railings, the columns, and then,
It's about 10.5 feet between the columns, and I'm showing a 2x10 joist system, and I want to do a thin metal railing so that it's pretty transparent.
So you-
little pickets
So-
painted black.
so what we see there is pretty accurate, then it's gonna be a very thin
Yeah, that's-
horizontal line going across.
That's what I'm.
Yeah.
Good evening. Call to order the November 13th, 2017 meeting of the Arlington Redevelopment Board, recorded by ACMi. First on our agenda this evening is public hearing on EDR special permit docket number 3545, 8789 Broadway, Arlington, obviously, B2 neighborhood district, B2 neighborhood business district. So the proponents are here. Have them come forward and introduce yourselves, please.
My name is Zeke Brown. I'm the architect for the project. This is Kevin Flynn, the owner. What we have designed here is a 4-story mixed-use building. What we've done is we have three-bedroom apartments on the upper floors from 2, 3, and 4. Those are 1,675 square feet each, and we have a small commercial space on the first level about 1,200 square feet. We've tried really hard to have this proposed building meet all of the zoning requirements. So the setbacks are being met, the buffer zones are being met. Mr. Bunnell, I think it's a B4 district, not a B2, but we've got B4 to the right and to the left. In addition to meeting all of our setbacks and our FAR and our height requirements, we're also providing the required number of parking spaces in the back, which is 6. Because the building, the commercial space is under 3,000 square feet, there's no parking requirement or loading dock requirement for that. So we have 6 parking spots. They are partly underneath the building in the back and partly outboard. And in this way, we were able to get our turning radiuses to work with the driveway in and out. I think the site is sort of an interesting one in that it's right between a bunch of 3-decker residential buildings towards Cambridge, and then on the other side is sort of a run of commercial projects. And so we figured, picking up on some of the typology of the triple decker, by stacking 3 apartments there, we were kind of working with the site conditions a little bit and bringing a small commercial space closer to the street, helping to define that street edge is something that we did at the neighboring property, Learn to Grow. And I think, that pretty much sums it up. Yeah. Kevin, do you have anything to add?
I don't know.
Andy?
Okay, I'd like to let the next guy go.
All right.
I'm okay for now.
Ken, go ahead.
Come back, Ken.
Well, okay. I am very supportive of this project. I think I like it. I'm saying I think it's sort of following very much the what we're trying to establish here, this commercial in this sort of mixed-use zone here, and encourage development here. I think you took it and you did really well.
Thank you.
Okay. Now I'm just going to ask some questions. Okay. One was your trash locations in the back. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're expecting people to come down the rear stair and just throw trash out there, and then you drag it down the alleyway there, or you drag it across the parking lot and out?
Yeah.
And so these are rentals or condos?
I think that they'd be condos.
Give it so it's part of the condo association that will take care of that. I don't know. I just find it a little hard to see that people living on all 4 floors will walk down the stairs and throw the trash way back there. They might just find someplace more convenient. So where you show the trash now might be different where they actually end up using it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that building a little pen for trash barrels and providing a 55-gallon rolling bucket, bin for each unit. I mean, I don't know. And it could be written into the condo docs that the trash storage happens in this zone back here, if you provide an area for it.
Is the trash hauled by the city or by private?
This would be town.
The town.
It's
yeah.
the town. It's the town.
So it would be
Except for the commercial.
yes, but then it will be these. It won't be a 55-gallon trash container. Then it'll be whatever the 35. Is it 35?
It's those rolling.
It's what are the requirements? You can't just get these big jumbo things. Some guy has to be able to dump it into
Yeah, they're big gray rolling bins. I've got a couple in my house.
Okay.
You just roll them out.
Well, I have some concerns about that, okay? And if you're saying that you're gonna fence it off somehow and make that the designated area, yeah, I suppose I can sort of live with that, okay? I mean, I just don't want these trash cans migrating to the front where, you know, they come down the elevator, come out the front door, and they just throw it out there and it's off to the side somewhere, right by the side yard between the houses.
Right, right.
I just see that just happening, and
Yeah.
I think that can be enforced with a condo doc.
okay, I don't want to encourage that.
Yeah.
That part there. And then on your parking, do you need a little, you know how at the end of the driveway, do you feel like you need a little 5-foot indent so the last car can do that sweep and do the 3-point turn and out? Otherwise he's backing out all the whole way. You following me?
Yeah, I am following. Yeah, you're talking about right here.
Yep.
Yeah, we've got enough room to add a couple more feet to the driveway. I was trying to, you know, minimize the amount of asphalt in there and leave as much green space as possible, but that would certainly make it easier to make a turn.
So if you had that, it doesn't get take away from the required open space, right?
I'd have to look at my numbers. Just hold on, let's see what my numbers say. I'll tell you if we're close or not. It's not applicable. Open space percentage is not applicable.
Okay.
So we can add a little wing to the driveway in that zone to make that.
I think you would end up that way anyways, because when you plow the snow, you're just gonna push it straight out,
Right.
and it's not gonna, I mean, even if you plan to have green space there, it's just gonna
Right.
be brown mud space. All right, and then on this plan right here, the elevator lobby on the first floor. Yes. Don't you think it'd be nicer if you had a window there instead of a?
In here?
Yeah, just let some natural light in that space there.
Yeah. I'm in favor of windows.
I just thought, you know, it's a pretty long
Yeah, yeah.
procession
Okay.
back there, and then having some sort of light back there sort of draws you back there and makes it a little nicer back there. So it's not like a dark closet you're going into.
Yep,
It feels safer, and
yep.
you know. All right, and then on your elevations, can you pop up your elevations? Don't get too long, Tony.
That's why I passed it on to you.
Are you showing the elevator override right now, or?
Yes, in a very subtle line right here, we've got our elevator override.
All right, so that's all that's going to override. It's not. I'm not going to see something that sticks out another 4 or 5 feet.
No, you're not going to see another thing that sticks out 4 or 5 feet.
Okay. I noticed on that elevation there, that's the side where all the mechanical rooms are.
This side, yeah.
Are you going to have vents on those sides there
Yes,
for
we
the?
will. Yes, we will have vents.
Okay, and that's far enough away from the windows.
It has to be, you're quizzing me on my code knowledge. I'm gonna have to look that one up.
Just say
I think
it will be far enough away.
It will be far enough away.
Okay.
Well, it has to be far enough away, but it's 5 feet, I think, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, and then on your plans you show fireplaces. So best no,
Yes.
stay on the elevation right there,
Yeah.
the front elevation there. Okay. Are you
Yeah.
going to have direct vent out to the front, or are you going to have chimney up to the roof?
I think we're gonna go up and we do it up here. We'd have them all coming out up there.
So
Yeah.
there'll be an appendage that sticks up there somewhere with some.
Yeah, but it'd be low, because these are gas units, they're not actual wood burning units.
Okay. And then on your last elevation, still on the side elevation there.
This one or
Yeah.
this one?
Yeah, just to the right there. You just neglected to show the remaining of the elevation, right? The elevation that's at an angle.
Which side, this side or this side?
Well, elevation number 4. If you look straight on there, right? If you look on the north elevation, that chunk sticks out a little further.
This one right here?
No, the other side, where the bedroom is, where the master bedroom is.
Yes.
That's a skewed wall.
Yes.
So
That's this right here.
yeah, so it would show up on that north elevation, right? Or no?
It would show up on this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, maybe a very
A sliver, right?
small, tiny
like-
sliver. Yeah.
So it
It'd
does
be-
stick out.
It'd be a tiny sliver.
Okay, I don't know, was it innie or outie, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I apologize
That's
for
fine.
that slight variation. There was some last minute jiggering that happened, so.
Okay. And then, I promise, this is my last question.
Hey, you're thorough. That's good.
On the decks you got out front there,
Yeah.
is that the actual spacing you're gonna have for the framing for that deck?
You mean the railings?
Not the railings, the columns, and then,
It's about 10.5 feet between the columns, and I'm showing a 2x10 joist system, and I want to do a thin metal railing so that it's pretty transparent.
So
You
you-
know, little pickets
So-
painted black.
so what we see there is pretty accurate, then it's gonna be a very thin
Yeah, that's-
horizontal line going across.
That's what I'm
With some
going
post,
for.
a more modern,
Yeah.
contemporary look.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
all right.
We're missing a column in this.
Yeah, but I'm assuming your elevations are better.
The elevations are more correct and
Yep.
easier to make accurate than the renderings, redoing renderings.
Okay.
David?
Yeah.
I'm also generally supportive of the project. Certainly a big improvement over what was there before.
And a lot.
Yeah. And consistent with the town's goals. So I have a couple of things I wanted to talk about. The first is I noticed in your renderings of the front of the building that you had a couple of bicyclists rolling by. So I wanted to ask about bicycle parking,
Okay.
both for the residents and for the commercial tenant, and ask what you were thinking about that.
Well, given that there is an elevator, I think my thinking for the residential units is that those bikes would probably be brought upstairs. And for the commercial space, you know, I'll be totally honest, we haven't really factored it into this because we're so jammed up with required turning radiuses and getting the number of parking for cars that we didn't zero in on that. However, you know, we could designate this whole area back here for bike storage and trash and sort of utility type stuff, and make a pen for it. If it's not attached to the building, I think it qualifies more as a shed and it doesn't abide by the same setback rules.
So a couple of thoughts.
Yeah.
First is, I think it's fine if you're going to allow the unit owners to bring bikes into their units.
Sure.
Because it's an elevator building, I'd say
Yeah.
if it wasn't, that would be problematic.
Yeah, it's a little harder to hump them.
But I would strongly encourage that to be in the condo docs, that is permitted.
Yeah,
Uh,
Sorry, that it's permitted to put the bikes in the
bring
unit?
bikes up.
Yeah,
Of the unit.
up the
to bring them
elevator.
in the up through the elevator, or the stairs for that
Yeah.
matter, if someone wanted to carry it up and down, and store them in their units. As far as the commercial space, it would be preferable to put some bike parking right out in front,
On the
if
sidewalk?
there's space.
Yeah,
And that could just be a simple bike rack or two.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to,
just around.
yeah, like a
the-
ring and post
Yeah.
or an inverted U, something like that.
Yeah.
Just so that, you know,
It's
without
inviting to
knowing
that.
who's going
Yeah.
to be in that space, just so there would be a little bit of visible bike parking for
Yeah.
the employees or customers.
I'm totally in favor of that. I'm a cyclist, so that's,
Okay, great.
sometimes it's hard to find a pole.
I wanted to hear a little bit more about your thoughts on landscaping.
we are going to have a wood fence along here, 6 feet tall. And we've got a zone here that we want to plant up. And the rest, you know, I mean, we'd love to make this parking less wide, but that's going against sort of a required dimension. But I'd like to put plantings along that edge as well. I mean, any kind of more of a buffer between these two would be great. I just didn't know how much I could push and pull some of these dimensional requirements, so I didn't do that. And the rest is just grass space, you know. It's lawn, it's permeable surface. It's not really big enough to, you know, make a patio or anything like that, but I mean, we could certainly talk about doing some ornamental plantings along the sides and in the green space, if that's desirable.
What's the space between the right side of the building and the adjacent building to the right?
It's a mess.
The adjacent building?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a real mess. It's
Well-
it's an iron, it's a old wrought iron fence and overgrown stuff that just all has to be cleaned up. It's a huge mess.
Well, we're 6.5 feet basically from the property line.
Right.
And I don't know what they are. Off the top of my head, I don't know what they're. I'd have to go out there and measure, but I want to say they're probably about 6.5 feet too. I'm not really sure.
You're close. It's about between 5 and 6 feet.
Yeah, something like
I
that.
drive by there every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, there is only one window per unit on that side of your building.
Yeah, right.
But there are a number of windows looking out from the neighboring building, and I'm just thinking whether you've heard anything from them about their concerns at looking at a blank wall, which may be preferable to looking at an abandoned gas station or a parking lot, but
Well,
it's something I was thinking about.
we have not heard anything.
Mhm.
Maybe we will tonight, but, you know, from an architectural point of view, making sure windows on adjacent buildings don't align
Right.
is kind of the goal.
Absolutely.
So, if there aren't a lot of windows on ours, we have a higher chance of, you know, misalignment,
Yeah.
which is a good thing.
Yeah. And so they at least won't feel like there's a privacy
Right.
issue.
Right.
Okay.
Can I jump on that?
Yeah.
The 6-foot stockade fence goes around the whole site. No, the other way. Because on your site plans it shows it, but when you were pointing it out, you never pointed at that point. Yeah, right there. There's a stockade fence there, right?
Yeah, there's a fence, Learn to Grow has a fence there, and that's a,
Chain link fence.
yeah, like I think, is that 6 feet or is that four? Is that 4 or 6?
I think it's 4
I think
or
that was
5.
4.
But you're showing a stockade fence going all the way around.
No, I actually wanted to stop here. I don't want to double up fences. I want to have one fence that's already in existence right there remain. I don't want to put 2 fences next to each other. So the fence that we would propose to put in stockade is here and here,
I would have a problem.
not here.
I would have a problem with that.
You want a fence right in front of another fence?
I would want the headlights of the cars coming out of your parking lot, not blasting into the child care center. That's where the kids come out to play. It's a nice little play area there. You guys did a good job there.
Yeah.
But then if you come out, all you have is headlights right into kids.
Well, we know that neighbor, so I think something could probably get worked out.
Yeah, but we got to treat this as
Yeah.
It's an interesting question, and I think that would come to light if someone were to back in to that space, right? But it would probably happen maybe during the winter months, right? Because during the summer months, where the center is closed at 6, so by So it would probably be a 5 to 6 o'clock thing if it were to happen during the winter. It's something to think about. It's a good point.
Well, it's more than that. It's just not even the headlights. I mean, imagine a little kid, 1 or 2 years old, playing there, and a car's coming right toward the fence. You know, there is a zoning for that.
I mean, you're talking about as they pull out and turn.
Or as they come in, or as they come.
The proximity's close, I think.
It's
is
very.
what I'm hearing.
You're right on there. You're like a foot away.
We're close.
Okay.
Yeah.
If there's some sort of buffer,
Hmm.
okay. I mean, if you put bushes there, which
I would like that. I mean, I'd like a buffer, but I think I need essentially your permission to make that zone here less wide.
Or just change out the fence. Fence that's, the current fence that we currently have, just change that out to the stockade fence. Can you live with that?
I could, but I think a buffer would be friendlier. It's just, you know.
What do you mean by buffer? You mean like
I
craning?
think instead of making this 24 feet, we go to 22 or 21 and a half, and we have a strip here and we plant it with, you know, arborvitae or something. And it just has the same effect, but we don't have two fences next to each other, and it's friendlier, you know, all of it's friendlier rather than
how do you
fence
establish
to
6'7"?
What?
How do you establish 6'5" or 6.5 feet on the other side?
How do I what?
If you look at your site plan,
Yeah.
yes, you got 6.5 there, right? Feet.
Yeah.
How did you establish that?
How did I establish that?
Yeah.
Um,
I look at your zoning thing. It's
yeah,
side
well,
yard setback is 0, right?
So I wanted to be between 5 and 10 feet, because if I go below 5 feet, I can't have any windows on that wall at all. And if I'm between 5 and 10 feet, I can have 10% or 15% open space on that wall,
So it's based on
based
fire
on
code.
fire separation. And so I didn't want to crowd that side too much, because they're close to their property line as well, you know. So I'm trying to, you know, massage things. I mean, I suppose I could move this over a foot and maybe make that 23, and I'd get a little bit of a buffer that way. But I didn't do that.
I would encourage that. Very,
Okay.
very much encourage.
Which one? You mean the buffer part or the fence part?
Well, I think what he's saying is we move the whole building over to the right a little bit, maybe make this less wide, and then that gives us our buffer zone
That's what you
here.
said?
Yes.
So
I don't think you don't want to reduce that 6 feet.
No, I don't think you want to go closer to.
Right now it's
Right.
6'5". If we take maybe like 6 inches or a foot off of that, so you still meet your fire code, and add it to the other side, I think it's, I don't know, that's something I would encourage, yes.
I wouldn't do that. I would keep what you have on the right, because it's getting pretty tight.
It's tight.
And then put a little 1 foot or 1'6" buffer bush thing on the line there.
Zing.
That's not gonna not gonna interfere with parking, and
Yeah.
people are gonna pull into it if they have to, but they'll learn to work with it.
So you're saying, okay, less than 22 feet?
Yes.
So we would carry the same arborvitae line that we have now in the beginning?
No, not
It
the
would
big.
No,
step
no, that's
back.
too
I
big.
think
It
It'd have to be smaller.
It'd
might
be
give
smaller.
yourself a 1'6" planting for bushes.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you feel that's enough
Or
space?
ivy or whatever it takes to grow up on that and
Yeah.
create a nice planting buffer between the parking lot and the kid's place.
Yeah.
What about, the screening material that sometimes you put on fencing, that green,
Oh,
dark?
Green screen.
No?
That doesn't look,
No.
I know,
don't do that.
I'm just trying to solve the
No,
problem.
don't do that.
Sorry.
It's just too nice. You got nice plantings, and don't put that stuff on.
I have
I
a thought
agree.
on making more space.
Go for it.
oh, I know it.
Did you guys, now you've met the minimum parking requirement, but did you guys consider reducing the amount of parking, since it is a very walkable, bikeable, transit accessible area?
We did, and we talked to Jenny and Laura about that. And it wasn't, I think that in order to do that, we would have had to have given you a TDM.
That's correct. Yeah.
And I wasn't really clear on how that would work with a condo unit that was for sale. So, and that became a question for all of us, and since we could get the parking in, we went for it, you know? Yeah. So, I hope that at least partially answers your
Can I ask you
question.
something, David?
Sure.
See, next to the stairs, between the rear stairs and the cars there,
Between the rear stairs and the
there's a little sidewalk there, right?
Yes.
yeah, I see that.
Would you be able to hang bikes there vertically?
No, you wouldn't be able to walk into it.
No, you wouldn't walk on it anymore. I would just spread the cars out over so you just walk between the cars and then out into the driveway. That gives you some covered parking for bicycles.
I don't know that you need to do that though. If
No?
they can, because I think if they can bring the bikes easily into their units, that's preferable to most
Oh, for
people.
sure.
Okay.
You know, I think where we've required, kind of roll in, roll out bike parking before is where it wasn't really feasible to do that because either they would have had to carry them downstairs into storage areas or carry them upstairs into their units. And I think since there's an elevator here, they're going to do what's preferable to most people.
I can respect your opinion. That is, I'll go with that. Okay. Well, I was looking at that. Your elevator lobby on the upper floors, is that wide enough for a gurney?
Does it have to be wide enough for a gurney?
If it's an elevator access for 4 stories, yes. And is that a 2,500 pound or a 3,000 pound elevator?
I'm not 100% sure it does.
Would you be able to check into that?
Yeah,
And
I will check into that.
if the lobby needs to be wider, see how the stair is a little bit of an outie?
Yeah.
You don't have a front yard setback. You can push that out a
We'd
little bit
have
more,
to bring
right?
this out a little bit more. That's right. That's all we would have to do. That's right. And we've got a little bit of play in the FAR, so we're still okay. We could do that if we needed to. Yeah.
Okay. That's something you'll check with Mike Burns.
Yeah, and I think that we might also push the elevator back and put the squeeze on the laundry. Yeah. I think that
Might have more maneuvering room to get the bike out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know it's tight. I mean, this is we're
Yep.
right there.
And then when Dave thought about the bicycles coming through the elevator, I said, oh, what about a gurney?
Yeah.
One other thing to consider since people could potentially be bringing bikes in all weather conditions is how you build out that lobby area and the elevator so that it's not likely to
Durable.
get slippery when wet or
Yeah.
dirty from slush falling off
Yeah.
things and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Put some thought into that.
Nice porcelain tile floor, some grit to it. You know, I mean, I don't know what the demographic says, but you know, if I think some young couples wouldn't necessarily have 2 cars, so I could see some folks leaving their bikes downstairs in one of their parking spots, you know, that they have. I don't know.
I mean, if they had a way to
If they had a
secure
way
it,
to
I
secure 'em.
suppose.
Right.
Speaking of the parking, is it contemplated that there would also be commercial use of those parking spaces, or are those exclusive use of the tenants
Exclusive use of the tenants.
or condo owners rather?
That's right.
I'm assuming the one that's all the way up to the back, has a designated handicap one?
Yes.
Okay.
Gene.
I'm curious, what's the market like for the commercial space?
For the commercial condos?
No, for the commercial space, what's the market like for that? How likely are you to
Well-
be able to sell it for?
I'm not really a developer. I mean, it's not something I'm
Mhm.
I mean, I've talked to some brokers, but what's critically important to me, since we have the space next to it, is the use. So it's really important that, given that we have children next door, what the uses of that commercial space is probably the most important thing for me. And so we intend, I've talked to my attorneys about how we, you know, when we write these condo docs, that what happens in that space is important. Obviously, I don't want a bar, things like that. So, it's, that's one of the reasons we wanted to make sure we had control over this.
And can you say what's gonna happen in the basement of the building?
Yeah, I mean, that's gonna be storage units for the upper floors and potentially some mechanical space. So it's not, you know, strictly habitable, usable space. It's mechanical storage
For the condos?
for the condos.
So theoretically, people could store their bicycles in the basement?
People could store their bikes down there if they wanted, yeah. You know, I think there'll be some storage pens down there. There'll probably be one for the commercial space as well. And then there'll be mechanical stuff, yeah.
I like going last, everybody asks all the good questions.
Actually, I get to go last
Oh,
tonight. I
sorry.
defer to Andy tonight, but no, everybody did ask all the questions, and you stole mine about the commercial space. So, I'll open it up to
I
public
have a-
comment. Go ahead, and then I'll open it up.
Materials, could you give us a 2-second description?
2-second description.
Or a 2-minute?
2-minute description. We basically have 4 materials that we're looking at for the exterior. We're looking at a sort of a board and batten siding material, which would be a hardy panel with a batten, which has a little bit of a bigger texture to it. It's good for a storefront, kind of has a monolithic feel. The wood grain on the rendering is natural wood, and we want it to be natural wood. We like that sort of weathering warmth that it brings. We did some of that over on the Learn to Grow building, and I think it was very successful in bringing sort of a human feeling to it. We've got hardy clap, 6-inch exposure hardy clap here and back here, and then on the back side we've got just a drive-in, a stucco happening in here. And combined the wood and the black metal and a black window frame, I think it really gives a pretty crisp sort of modern interpretation of like a pretty typical New England triple decker. And that was we wanted to sort of step it up a little.
Is the decks are wood or painted wood?
The decks, yeah, they're not really showing too well in the renderings. The decks would probably have a hardy panel ceiling, so when you're looking up from below, you'll see a panel with a batten. But the decking itself, I don't know if we've really talked about it, but I'd like to see them be natural wood, but that's pretty expensive. So the decking material itself will probably end up being some sort of composite from above.
They look about 6 inches thick, but I
Yeah,
believe
they're
you.
they should be 2x10s.
They look good. I like the look of it too.
You know, if we can, I like the blade. I just, I think there's something crisp and clean about that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
The
you did a good
stucco's
job
not,
on block.
stucco's not ephes, right?
It's ephes.
It's ephes?
It's ephes.
Panelized.
Analyze.
So is it is it a hard coat or?
Well, I'm asking if it's panelized, so.
It's
In other words, it's built in
It's-
panels and brought in as a prefabricated panel.
No, that's not what
no,
I'm saying.
no. This
It
is
says ephes.
this
You
is
can bring ephes in that way.
it's got the insulation on it, and they trowel it on or they spray it on, and it's got the control joints.
Would you think maybe in the bottom 8 feet of it, making that a reinforced hard coat?
I instead of doing that, maybe we just.
You know what I'm
bring
trying to get
siding-
at, right? Because how ephes, all it
Yeah.
is that popcorn stuff that's just gonna
Yeah.
chip and fray, and it's gonna look like.
I'd rather do a band of the hardy clap going around rather than doing a hard coat.
Well, I'm
Stuff.
less concerned about that side. I'm more concerned about the other side underneath the building,
Yeah, we could do hardy clap in
where
there too.
where everybody be walking by, the cars
Yeah.
would be, you're shoveling snow.
Sure.
That stuff does not last
Yeah. Yeah.
Andy, you're the
No,
guy.
that's a really good point. I totally agree. That's a
Yeah.
good heads up. If you can do it all the way around, would be the best. Or reinforce it.
All hardy clap.
Yeah, I mean, it's much more durable than,
It is more durable.
but if not, then reinforced base is a good idea.
Okay.
And probably at the car areas where Ken was saying is a good idea.
Yeah, no, I think we'll bring the claps in there for sure.
So the whole bottom will be a clapboard.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the horizontal, it could be whatever you,
Yeah, right.
yeah, just, it doesn't have to be the blue, but it could be the blue material, whatever.
Right.
Something
Right.
that's
Right.
durable.
Yeah.
All right, I'll calm down.
No, that was good.
All right, I'll open it up for a public question, comment. Please raise your hand. I'll call on you. When I do, state your name and address. Please address questions to the board and not to the proponent. Mr. Roche.
Bob Predosha. On the, excuse me,
And
the
your
right
address,
side
Bob.
of the building.
Bob, could you give us your
adjacent-
address too for the record?
Oh, Columbia Road, Arlington. I also own property on Winter Street. On the right, the building to the right, you mentioned a fence and it's sort of a ragged fence. My question was, who owns the fence? Is that on your site or next door?
We still don't know,
Oh, okay.
but it's a mess.
Right.
I'm hoping to, if it belongs to the property, the adjacent property, we want to talk to them about replacing it.
Okay.
And cleaning up all the overgrown, it's just all overgrown, it's a big.
I know the situation, that's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah.
Another reason, but anyhow. The only other comment I have is basically, the parking spaces at 5'6", or a little more, that seems tight.
No,
The
Eight
not,
foot six.
8'6".
They got 27.7, and you got 5 cars in there. Reading it right.
Where do you read that?
That's,
I-
that's,
He's
that's
looking at
the,
the
that's the
platform.
length of this side of the building, which is a dashed line.
Right.
That is,
It's not the whole thing.
sorry. That is, this section of the building is 27.7. So the surveyor gave a dimension for each side of the building. And
If you add-
27.7 is just that one side.
If you add the 15.8 to the 27.7, and you add those two numbers together, then divide by the 5 cars.
I thought that was one dimension all the way.
It is, but there's another dimension there.
27.
27.7 plus 15.8.
That's 40
yeah.
feet.
And then you divide by 5.
Okay, okay, 96, sorry.
No, I didn't.
No, I only saw this kind of covered over here in the line.
Thank you. Others? Mr. Loretti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Loretti, 56 Adams Street. Can we go back to the first slide that, showing the, next to the triple decker? That's it.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I would say I think this project illustrates some of the problems with the mixed-use zoning in this particular zoning district on small lots, and in particular, the lack of any requirements for any sort of open space and the lack of any side yard setbacks. If you look at that building, it's probably 8 to 10 feet taller than the triple decker to the right of it, yet it's no more than 11 or 12 feet away. And I would ask you to consider how you would feel if somebody built a building 10 feet away from your bedroom window or your living room window or dining room window, as the case may be, that close to you. I realize it's a tight neighborhood, and with the triple deckers in that area, and there's 2 or 3 to the right of that building, the way they dealt with that is they were consistent in the placement of the driveways in the small side yard on the other side of the building. All of those other triple deckers will have the driveway to the right as you face from Broadway. This building, goes against that pattern, and as a result, you have the 2 very small side yards right next to each other, and that's what results in the building being so close to the triple decker next to it. I would submit that the developer has the driveway on the wrong side of the building, because by placing the driveway on the right side, they'll give that other building and their own tenants more airspace and skies and access to the sky on the side of the building. And the other problem that putting the driveway on the left-hand side does is it places it very close to the driveway for the daycare center. And you don't want driveways with curb cuts that close to each other because that's a safety hazard. So the first point is that the driveway really should be on the right-hand side for those reasons. I note, in the application, the applicant didn't put down what the usable and landscaped open space were. I realize there's no requirement for that, but I still think it should be listed on the application form, because I think you would see just how little green space there is on this lot. It's almost all impervious surface now. And I think with your basis of comparison, this is a new lot, and it should be compared with the vacant lot is not with what was there previously, because it's newly created. In that regard, I think the stormwater plan should be submitted, and you should ensure that there's no off-site runoff, that all of the water hitting that site is going to be recharged on-site and not flow anywhere off-site. And then just the final point I noticed in the memo, it talks about signage. I realize you don't know who the commercial tenant's going to be. But one of the charges of the redevelopment board is to review signage for EDR projects. And I believe the developer should have to come back to you once they have a tenant to approve the signage. It shouldn't just be a decision made by staff and the planning department and the inspection services department. So I think that concludes my points. I mean, basically what you're allowing here is a triple decker on stilts, and one that's much, much larger than the buildings adjacent to it, simply because there's a small amount of commercial space on the first floor.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Guys, Chris reminded me of a question that I had forgotten to ask, which was you talked about you'd have stormwater recharge in the ground. What storm level would that be able to handle?
So I'm not a civil engineer, but I believe is it 1 inch of water per hour? I think that's what the recharge tanks have to be able to hold when you factor in your roofscape and your paved area. So basically what that's going to mean is that we're going to probably have 2 separate recharge tanks underneath the driveway, going to probably 2 different catch basins. But we have not. The code requires that we get all of our storm water that is captured on this site controlled on this site. So we have to, before we're going to get a building permit, we're going to have to submit a civil plan showing that. We will. We intend to.
My other question, which I forgot, sorry, is have you done a site assessment to see if there's any contamination on the site, or do you intend to do one?
We have, we did an extensive one, obviously for the Children's Center, which included this property. It was done, let's see, back in the summer of 16, and there were actually 2 separate studies done. And we supplied all that information with the health department, actually.
And what was found, anything?
There were 2 things found. In the back of the property, when it used to be the Anderson Automotive.
The back of the adjacent.
Yes, not this property, I'm sorry, back of the old, the original property. There was an oil tank that they had above ground for some, when they took oil out of a car, they would store it there. And then a company would come and take that away, and some of that over time had spilled on the ground. And all of that had to be remediated, anything on the ground. So all the soil and everything was removed, as required. And the second significant thing that was found was in the building itself, some of the caulking and all the old windows had asbestos in it. And there was also some piping that had asbestos insulation on it. And all that had to be, all those windows and everything had to be removed. But on this property, there was nothing.
To Mr. Loretti's other point about the orientation of the driveway, did you think about which side to site the driveway on?
Yeah, I did, and I thought that the triple deckers marching down Broadway on that side of the project, although there's a driveway in between each one, they're all pretty consistently tied together. And you know, what we have is the daycare center, which I didn't want to crowd. I wanted to make sure that, you know, like we have a little bit of an open space there. You know, unfortunately, it's parking. You know, I wanted to just have a green space there, but we had to provide some parking. That's a different issue. But we have this sort of open space, and there's a rooftop play area which is about to come online, and so there's all this kind of nice open. So I kind of wanted to honor that and keep that open for the kids and not, you know, crowd them with the building. We're on the north side of that adjacent triple decker, so of all the sides that are getting light, it's getting the least already. So it's not like we're putting a 4-story building right on the south side of an adjacent property. So that was our rationale. My understanding in a B4 zoning district, there is no side yard setback. So, you know, it's just kind of a zoning issue, really. And, you know, we didn't want to jam it too tight, but, you know,
Okay.
it's in there.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from public at large? Anything further from the board?
What's the setback in a B2 district?
Any answer to that, Jenny?
I'm sorry, I
Setback in a
didn't
B2 district.
Setback in a B2 district.
This is B4.
But isn't B2 on either side of it?
No, it's B4
No,
on both
it's not.
sides.
This is
Before
all
the
B4.
agenda was
No.
incorrect, but there's a
It's all
B4.
four.
Yeah.
And I think there's an R2 or
There's an
R4
R2.
behind it.
There's other districts surrounding it.
On the back.
They all have varying setbacks.
Getty stuff all over the place. Not really, they're not really tied together.
So just to address two comments that were raised. One is in the general conditions, the signs would come back to you. And then two, there is a provision in here about providing drainage and surface water removal plan. That would also have to be approved by the town engineer. And then I've collected a variety of other potential additions from this board that we can include in the decision, depending on what you do next. So whenever you
Can you
are ready.
sort of give us a quick recap of what you just took notes of, not what you
Yeah.
had before, just what you
Sure.
added, just,
What I think is to add is a window in the elevator lobby.
I will give you a window.
Okay. A ring and post bike rack to the sidewalk outside of the commercial space. On the side, on the sidewalk, yeah. Some planting buffer between the parking lot of this property and the adjacent childcare center. Investigating the width of the elevator and requirements.
Yeah, I think we can do that
I think that's
internally.
more of a follow-up.
that's a
for you.
building code issue,
We can do
I'm not
that.
worried about that.
Okay, and then, I'm not gonna include that then. And then the party clap banding along the ground floor,
Right.
which could turn into more than that, but I think that's where we left it as an agreement.
Yeah.
Can I add one more
And then
thing?
the only other thing was the point you were making about the driveway, but I wasn't
No,
quite sure
no,
if you wanted to add that or not.
just drop the driveway.
Okay,
The only thing I want to add is the trash storage
Trash pen.
pen.
so
Trash
I
can.
have trash fencing,
Okay.
I just put
Trash
fencing
pen. Sure.
around.
Cool.
Is that
But
it?
some sort of language in
In the condo.
In the condo documents, yeah.
that says that that is the designated spot for trash, not
Yeah.
out front, on the side, or anywhere else.
I see.
And bikes.
And
can go
the
in
bike
lot.
They
storage
decided, I
as
think they
well.
decided that that would be something to be
Yeah,
put
I-
into the
In the condo docs, bike
condo
storage,
docs.
in the units.
And bike
Yeah,
storage.
that bikes are allowed in the elevator
Mhm.
And stair.
and stairwells to get up into the units.
Chris.
Mr. Chairman, I could make one more point and ask one more question before we close the hearing. You know, on the issue of the number of parking spaces, it seems to me that there have been a number of applicants before this board who have gotten relief from the nominal parking requirement. It really hasn't been that much of a burden. And I don't think I'd get much disagreement from you on that. I had thought that you could grant a reduction to 80% of required parking without the transportation management plan, and I'm not sure if that's the case in this district. But the other question I wanted to ask through you, Mr. Chairman, if the applicant's willing to answer, is I believe there was some news story about another developer vying for this property. And I'm wondering, is the current applicant planning to develop the property themselves, or are they seeking a permit in order to sell it to another developer?
I'll leave it up to you, whether you want to answer that question. It's outside of the purview of this board to consider that.
I'm gonna have to leave it to my client to answer.
In developing this will be done by us only,
Okay.
exclusively.
Can I ask one other?
Go ahead, Gene.
In Jenny's memo, there was a mention
Mr. King,
of
some-
potentially putting solar on the roof, and I wondered where you were on that possibility.
I don't remember chatting about that.
Yeah,
but-
it was more a possibility.
Okay. You know, there are all kinds of programs out there for that where, you know, you don't have to put up capital in order to do it yourself. So I think that, you know, something in the condo docs could be written in for roof space, you know, for the association, but then who gets that? Is it the top floor unit? Is it divided into thirds and then it's a patchwork?
Or
And
do
I
you,
just don't know the legal
or do
ramifications.
you
of
say
that.
it has to be available for them to use for solar?
Right, and just let them resolve it.
Is there a parapet around the roof? I mean, what is the
No,
roof like?
there's not a parapet, there is an eave.
So you wouldn't want people up there using it
I
in
think
its current condition?
Well,
No roof deck.
my thing is, how I see it, if there was any time going to be a roof deck, it would only be for the third floor tenant,
Oh, no, I don't, yeah, that's pretty high for a roof deck.
but only for third floor, because if it, all in the back bay, if you open it up to more than one, you know, deck,
Yeah.
it's open to more than one person, you have to bring an elevator up. Now, the elevator shoots up, now it's above the thing, and then now you have to,
We'd have a whole huge head house
and then you have the second means of egress, and it's just such snowballing that it won't happen. Okay, it just doesn't happen.
We've got pretty nice porches
Yeah.
on this,
Yeah.
which,
Yeah, very generous.
which
yes.
are, you know, gonna be great perches to hang out, you know.
I mean, so in its current, in the currently conceived condition of the roof, it would be more appropriate for solar than for use by the owners.
I think so.
Mhm.
If that was,
That's
if
my
that's,
suggestion.
if that's what they want to choose,
Yeah.
you can't.
I don't know is why that would be a complicated thing to say is available in condo docs, but I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how that would.
Yeah, that's, and if you have 3 different or 4 different owners, how does that get parsed out? I mean, that has to be a lot of thought given to that.
Who owns the maintenance of the?
Who maintains it?
Placement, and if there's a leak.
The condo association would probably have to do that.
Yeah. I think so.
Not any individual owner, it would be the
Yeah.
condo association
Yeah.
that owned it.
That's all lawyer talk.
Get into it. We don't need to get into it. Deal with that enough. So, do we have anything further for the proponents? Are there any further public comments, questions? I think we can move forward then this evening.
I motion to approve this as, with the notes that you have described, added to your notes that you had before.
And amending the to add to the decision.
Correct.
And does that include getting the stormwater management approved?
That's already
That's
a
already-
special,
that's
that's
already
already a
condition.
general
Okay,
condition.
That was part of her list, and then we added some more lists to it.
Yeah.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've done a
Thank you.
really great job with that block, that corner.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Excited to see the final product.
Planter?
Me too.
Yeah.
Oh.
That wasn't what you shown before.
Well, it's the landscaping plan, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Why don't we, that's a
Let's table
broader
that.
conversation.
Let's table
I
it,
don't
okay?
think
Yeah.
that's on the agenda either.
Yeah.
I can share all the comments from parents if that helps.
If you and Jenny can work it out,
Okay, all right.
and then, and I will talk to Jenny about it, okay?
Okay.
Well, we do have additional business to conduct. I ask that if you're staying, sit. If you're not, please move on.
Because then I'm
sure
getting
five
through like quick things.
That's right. We should probably be
I'll
behind.
do my best. It's okay. Actually, you'll have the video. Okay.
We'll see what happens with it.
I'm happy to help with the
All right, so
bike
zoning
access
recodification
language, 'cause
update.
that's something we haven't done before
Okay.
since I've been here.
Are you closing the hearing?
I am closing the public hearing. It's been approved.
This actually
Moving
doesn't
on
have
to
any
the zoning
documents.
recodification update, agenda item 2. Jenny.
All right, great. So this one actually didn't have any documents in it because I was basically referring to the previous meeting. We haven't, there aren't any new documents. It's more just a quick update of where things stand.
Are we on track for the next version?
We've received, as of Sunday late afternoon, we received a copy of the hearing draft, and Laura and I spent the day looking through it and hope to get that forwarded to the zoning recodification working group because they are having a meeting on Friday morning. And hopefully by the time they meet on Friday morning, each section has been sort of divvied up by the group. So everybody will have an opportunity to review the hearing draft and see if their comments have been addressed and how they've been addressed since the
That-
previous draft.
That went out to the group
That
this
did go
evening.
out, okay, sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't see the email.
When does that go out to the public?
I think after the zoning recodification working group has had a chance to review it and understand everything, and then also everybody else has a chance to understand everything before then, we would post anything as like a public hearing or share things more broadly. I mean, we can certainly share the draft the way that we've just received it, but I think we want to make sure that it's, you know, accurate, it's addressed everything, there's no errors, things that need to be done or have been done. We have been discussing the possibility that a special town meeting would actually start in the second week of February. That's the new, we keep moving it out a month.
What does that do to our public hearing?
We think that would mean you'd probably need to start a public hearing like January 8th. So the first Monday in January is New Year's Day, so you're not going to have your usual schedule in January. So it would then require you probably to have meetings, if you were going to continue the hearing, which you likely would do, you'd probably want to do that on days other than Monday, because there's like 2 holidays in January on Mondays, and then we get very, very close to the time frame for when we need to get things, like a report to town meeting and other documents. So January 8th is basically the latest that we could have a public hearing. It's not a very, not, you know, we're squeezing it in basically to a time frame.
We're not having anything in December then, right?
What do you mean?
Are we having any meetings in December or,
You have 2 meetings in December.
no, 4?
For this,
Yeah.
I don't know at the moment, but not planning to.
Okay.
So
Well,
initially, we were talking about December 11th, and that was because we were thinking we were going to have a special town meeting that would start at the end of January. So now if we've gained 2 weeks, would we actually start that public hearing, and would that actually provide the public with a full month of time between now and December 11th? Not quite, no. So that doesn't leave enough space between when we would post a document and when we would have a public hearing. It doesn't meet notice requirements. So December 11th is not a possibility at this point.
And the third public information
Mhm.
session would be after or before?
It would
the
be in
pub-
January, so
Okay.
date TBD,
Mhm.
but it would be mostly targeted towards town meeting members. That was always the intent of the third forum, with, of course, anybody would be invited, but mostly geared towards preparing town meeting members for the
Yeah.
material and getting them acclimated.
Right.
And we've talked about other ways of doing that and ways of engaging people. That's something the Recodification Working Group is exploring. We've had some feedback on that as well.
And we have actively been reaching out to town meeting members.
Town meeting members have been reaching out to town
Yes.
meeting members.
Yes, the 3 town meeting members on the working group, including me, have reached out by mail and belatedly, due to some confusion on my part, by email to all of the town meeting members. I've got a hard copy. I didn't know if we were going to have copies, so I've just got my own copy if anyone wants to look at what we asked. But it's basically a little bit of information, a link to all of the documents that have been posted so far, and a quick survey to understand how aware the town meeting members are of the process that's going on, whether they have any questions or concerns and any suggestions they have for additional information they would need to make an informed decision on whatever proposal ends up being before town meeting. And up to now, including some new stuff that just came in since the meeting started, we've had I'd say about a dozen responses via email and about the same number that I've received in the mail, and expect to get additional responses over the next few days. I gave the people that the email went out to a few more days since I was delayed in sending it out.
What kind of questions are people asking in their feedback?
So there's I'd say a fairly common theme of wanting the changes presented in an easily understandable format by lay people, easily understandable by lay people. And I'm not sure whether any of the people who are saying that having seen the guidance documents that we've already produced and are asking for something more, or whether they're more new to the process. But that's definitely a concern of many of the people who have responded so far. There have been some very positive comments that they've been following the process and think it's been a good process, and appreciating the work that the working group has been doing. What else? There are also a number of concerns about specific substantive issues. So I think there's still some confusion about what is being addressed at this stage of recodification. And so I think we need to do a little bit more work to make sure that people understand that this phase is really about reorganization and resolving inconsistencies.
And just to add to that, I think that's partially because people want to get to those other policy changes that address specific issues that they're interested in, and wonder if that is something that is being addressed right now, or are we doing something that would actually be in direct opposition to their hopes or wishes. So I think it's a little bit of both confusion, but also they would like to get to the policy stuff.
What about outreach to people at large, not necessarily town meeting members? Are we having conversations with people in town? And if so, what kind of things are they saying or asking?
I mean, I can speak to what the outreach plan is telling us to do and what we are trying to achieve at the same time, which is to talk to different boards, which is the responsibility of everybody on the Zoning Recodification Working Group to go back to their respective boards. I would say the Conservation Commission has probably definitely done the most work of all of the boards compared, just from what I understand in terms of the report back, including actually taking a stab at what is the comparison between the existing zoning bylaw and their conservation regulations. So we now have a nice document comparing the two with some suggested new language that came from Leila Shepherd, who's the new environmental planner. But it's probably too substantive to use at this time, so not necessarily appropriate for recodification. But the point was that we have people on the recodification working group. The intention of that group was to have them do work in reaching out to their respective boards or commissions or committees or town meeting members, and to kind of go from there. There's also been some talk about making presentations to other groups, realtors groups, builders. We've talked about different, segments of the community to make sure that everybody understands what we're doing. I think the zoning recodification working group at their meeting on Friday is actually going to be looking at a very clear action plan. So taking that outreach plan and really turning it into what are the exact dates for when things are happening and who's responsible for what. One other piece that you had raised actually separately was potentially having some letter to the editor or something, working with one of the places in town to actually publish a piece about, where this board believes we are in the process and where, what we want to state to the community about the process. So that's another thing that we could do as a group.
Okay.
So I don't know if that helps, and David, I don't know if you were trying to add something.
No, I was just going to say I can speak for myself. The outreach that I've been doing, I had started by reaching out specifically to the other town meeting members in my precinct earlier in the process, to keep them informed and make sure they were aware they could come to me with questions. And then more recently, we thought, since there are only 3 town meeting members in the working group from 3 different precincts, and there are 21 precincts, that we needed to do a broader outreach. So the 3 of us decided to jointly send the emails and the letters to all of the town meeting members, so that
That's
we
a great idea.
would engage with all the precincts. And so that's been happening just over the last week.
What about specific times for education, open houses, meeting hours,
So we
separate
had-
from a public hearing to do Q&A? I know that was
We
something
had
that
the open
happened.
houses, they're over at this point in time. We didn't really have much interest in those open houses or office hours, if you will.
Mhm.
I think maybe it wasn't clear what we were doing, but we really didn't have a lot of people coming in asking questions.
Right.
So, I have still received lots of emails through the zoning recod email address, so we do get a stray question or comment here or there.
Is it a pretty
Gets
wide
responded to.
group of people there writing to that, or is it?
There's still a pretty broad group of people write to that email address because they don't they're just, asking a question, and that's the email address that's been provided.
Okay. I don't know if it was the same people asking the same
It's not
question,
always
or
the
if it
same
was
people. No,
a broader,
definitely not always the same
broader
people.
base.
So I think we do need to do broader outreach.
Mhm.
I think that part of that will happen probably over the course of the next month and January. Again, depending upon when we are actually going to get to a special town meeting, that helps us to then really understand and tailor the right outreach strategy, and understand who else we need to talk to whom we haven't reached
Mhm.
just yet.
Okay.
So there does seem to be a big focus on town meetings, but it's not intended to be exclusively just about town meeting
Yeah.
members at all.
Well, they are the ones who vote on it.
Right, but we do
But-
want to make it available to anybody and accessible to everybody. That's the intent of the recodification, so
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
hopefully that's clear.
I mean, some of the feedback that I've gotten is from people who have taken the guidance documents that we've already created and tried to work through the new draft with the guidance document. Is that they found it challenging, because you're kind of trying to look at the current bylaw, the proposed draft, and the guidance documents all at the same time
Mhm.
to make sense of what's changed.
I think once you get into it, though, and actually start, doing that,
Yeah.
it starts to make a lot more sense.
I think so
Than a
too,
1200
but it's a
page
little
red
bit
line document.
intimidating given the amount of paperwork involved.
I think it can be intimidating at the start, but once you get into it and actually start doing the work, you can see everything in front of you on one page and really get into what's being changed, what's not, what's being moved, what's not. That's my experience with it. Okay. Anything else on that
No,
topic?
no, that was it. And,
Okay.
again, David's on the recodification working group, of course, but anybody is welcome to attend on Friday if you want to learn more about what the group is up to and what they're planning to do next. That's it.
All right. Moving on to agenda item 3, in dealing chapter 91.
So this is a follow-up to a conversation that we've previously had, and basically with some direction. I'm glad to go through all of this, but I unless you have questions about it, I was going to move to just looking at the kind of the steps for the planning authority, which is the way that it's written in the law. And to talk about the process, basically it would be me reviewing documentation as a staff person and technically the secretary ex officio of the board, making sure that all of the documentation is in compliance, and then moving it forward actually to the Concom, or depending upon the outcome, a different entity through that process. So the planning authority review is pretty much number 3. Now, I can review this on behalf of the board, or if the board wishes to look at any number of these particular applications, that could be another way to do this. And you can, get a sense of what those steps are in the whole process from beginning to end. But we do have to have a process. We did talk with the state about this. We talked about the structure of the redevelopment board. We talked about other potential options and ways to do this. This seems to be the best solution for the way to handle it in Arlington.
Okay.
So I'm glad to answer specific questions that you might have about Chapter 91 or the process, or
So where does this apply?
it's mostly Spy Pond. It's still mostly a Spy Pond issue, but there may be other. We talked about this last time, Mystic Lake. Yeah. So, but most of what they've seen, just to be clear, is really Spy Pond.
Navigable waters and great ponds.
Yeah. Which would
Navigable.
Navigable
Navigable,
meaning Mystic
right.
Lakes.
Mhm.
meaning you'd put like a dock in. That's
Yeah.
essentially what it's about.
Small.
There's no docks in Spy Pond right now, is there?
Yeah, there are.
There are?
There are
Have to
some.
take them out
They
for
have
the
to.
winter.
Oh, okay.
There are a few, I
So this is adding a layer of review to any new docks or any other activity that would be happening in those 2 areas.
think. It looked to me like our job, or Jenny's if we give it to her,
Right.
is it violating any zoning bylaw or other requirement
Right.
that we have a obligation to review, and if it doesn't, we just say, fine, pass it on.
Right. It's basically a zoning review, which is kind of similar to what I do right now for the ZBA, which is a review of an application and then provide in a memo how this does or does not meet the requirements or eligibility, and then provide them any recommendations or feedback. So the same thing could happen through this particular process under the same authority.
And I think these permits are good for 15 years, so there shouldn't be very many coming up in any year.
Right.
Okay.
So I was reviewing the summary of the planning authority responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like we have to do one of 2 things. Either approve it or notify DEP
Right.
that we're not approving it.
That's right. And those are the steps.
There's a third option, if we do nothing, it's deemed approved.
Yes,
Yeah, of course, yeah,
that's the
by
case.
default.
I like that one.
So that's the number 4. Here, yeah.
Okay. All right,
Okay. So that's the update on that.
moving on. Concom
If you want, you
regulations.
could vote on that if you think you need to, by the way, but I don't necessarily.
don't.
Is the plan that you'll do a little report to us saying this came in and this is our recommendation?
I could do that if anything does come up. It's up to you, how you'd like me to handle anything with,
I mean,
I
can
think
we
if-
fully delegate to you?
yes, you could. But you can also ask me to report back.
I think if we were
Either
to,
way.
if we were to delegate
Or both.
to you, unless there were a concern, you can come to us.
Okay.
Otherwise, it could be an administrative approval.
Right.
So, more work for your department, less work for.
Yeah, well, it's, Leela is also the person who is playing the role for the Concom, so I think we play a role working together, initially. But I think I'll handle the zoning review because that's obviously the
I
nature
think
of the,
given-
that's the nature of the requirement.
I
in
think
this
given
particular regard.
the expected flow of requests for this, I think it's perfectly fine and appropriate to delegate it to the department,
Okay,
unless there's something that needs to be interpreted by the board.
Do you
Are
want
we
us to vote on it?
delegating for the staff to say, no problem, and come to us if there might be?
If there's some question that needs to be interpreted by the board, it can
Or
come
if
before
we,
us.
or if we are going to say no.
Or if there's a risk of saying no, then it needs to come to us for a vote.
That's where
Otherwise,
that's where I would put the line.
Yeah.
So do you want us to vote on it, or just say do nothing?
I just wanted to make sure it was clear what the next steps would be after
I don't think we need
that
to,
conversation concluded.
we could vote on that procedure. All in favor of making it an administrative, an administrative approval process, unless it were likely to be denied or unless there was some question to be interpreted by the board.
Second.
So moved.
So moved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Fine.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
All right,
Concom regulations.
The
so,
old man, you see.
we thought we already commented on this.
Yeah.
And they did more.
Then they did more. So I have a summary from Nathaniel about what they're looking, and they want our comments by Thursday. So they did make some changes. I had him outline what they were since the last time that you reviewed it.
I didn't either.
Personally, I did not have any comments about these particular additional changes. I just wanted to bring to your attention the part that I did have a comment about, and then I'd be glad to answer any other questions about it. My comment is about adding something about climate change resilience. And my concern is that I think of these issues, this particular issue, and the way in which other municipalities are beginning to address climate change resiliency is through land use and zoning. And I feel that this would be a great thing for our zoning bylaw to eventually address when we get to some policy issues. I also recognize that it is not in our master plan at all, talking about climate change or adaptation or resiliency whatsoever. So it's not tied to any plan at the moment, at this moment in time. My concern is jumping to, having the Conservation Commission jump to recommendations about climate resiliency without some planning process or some way to get to this place of then making recommendations about how they want to address those impacts. So that's just, I'm just putting that to you as my concern.
It's almost like in the effort to remove from zoning the pieces that should be before the Conservation Commission, we're going a little bit too far and giving them something that should perhaps be kept in zoning at some point in the future.
Perhaps.
I was okay with this, because it still relates back to mitigating the effects of climate change on the resource areas, which is the areas, which are the areas that they have primary responsibility for, and not for the rest of the town, and not for the upland areas, and, you know, and things like that. So I wasn't bothered by it. I think if you're bothered by it and think it needs to be part of a larger discussion, I'm okay with that too. But standing alone, I thought it was appropriately limited to their geographic area of interest. I just put that out.
Yeah, no, and I certainly see it as being relevant to their particular jurisdiction in this regard.
Yeah.
But two references that they've used, one is about Cambridge, actually, and that vulnerability assessment, while it does deal with issues in Arlington, is not really, the recommendations are specific to Cambridge.
Hmm.
And then second, we haven't even started the MVP process yet, so we don't actually have recommendations to act upon. It just felt like it was it's forward thinking, which I like, but it feels a little farther along than where we were at.
Is it necessary to have that last paragraph with the references in here?
No, I think that this is, I think they're just planning just the section 31. This would be the addition.
Right, the references should be
The reference is
in the
just for
regulations.
FYI, that's where this came
Okay.
from.
It's not
Oh,
clear
well,
from the way
actually,
this
yeah,
is
the proposed
formatting.
project, yeah, I don't, so I
I'm
don't
looking at
know.
the draft of section 31, and it has the paragraph with the references.
Yeah, it actually says of the proposed project, so I don't know what to make of that.
Maybe we should suggest that we shouldn't reference that because the town is starting the process to come up with its own.
And I think I would agree that otherwise, the new section seems appropriately limited to the Conservation
To the
Commission's scope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that.
So the introduction, while this relates to the order, the introduction talks about broader than that, just to be clear. So it's,
Let's see.
But again, it relates to the land that they have to be concerned with.
yep, it's just, my concern is that without a more thorough planning process and actually targets and measures about how we want to reduce these sorts of issues, which is something that we're actually studying through the municipal vulnerability preparedness process. Without having that in place, I'm not clear what the specific request is for an applicant.
So,
It just is, these things,
so could we
Okay.
suggest that we defer the climate change resilience section discussion at this point, since since that doesn't seem specifically related to the process that we started with of
Mhm.
removing the redundancies and Conservation Commission related sections from the zoning bylaw.
Well, you mean,
So
Maybe
this
not.
the process with the Conservation Commission started because we wanted to make sure that that we understood what was being suggested for removal from the zoning bylaw, and to the extent anything wasn't already being handled by the
Right.
Conservation Commission, to not remove it from the zoning bylaw.
Mhm.
And is the climate change resilience piece something they've now added onto that process?
no, this would be actually in their conservation regulations. So they're suggesting to add this to their own regulations for wetland protection, not to add it to zoning, but to add it to their regulations.
Well, right,
So-
but it just seems like that's unrelated to the original task that we engaged
They-
with the Conservation Commission on.
I know, that was a different task, and it's separate from this conversation, actually, that they did complete. This is something new that came up along the way.
Okay.
They went to a training, they learned that some conservation commissions are exploring climate resiliency, and they got excited. And so they brought back some suggestions about how it could be incorporated into the regulations, which is very forward-thinking, and aligns with a lot of the other things that they're putting into their amendments. My only concern was that it doesn't seem to be aligned with any bigger planning process in town, and that we're actually in the middle of a planning process that could set specific metrics and benchmarks that they could aim to help us
What's the
address.
time frame on that?
It's actually through the spring,
So we would,
the vulnerability
and will it,
awareness.
so will the results of that require a bylaw amendment?
There will likely be some recommendations.
So we're probably looking at not having anything in place for 2 years.
Well, it could be another special town meeting, or it would be the following annual town meeting,
So most likely 2019,
2019.
spring town meeting, and then to come into effect fall of 2019.
Right.
Is this a clarification or,
This is new language that they're proposing
so
to add
it's,
to
so
their
it's additional
regulations.
regulations,
Yes.
not clarification of something existing?
No, this is they're amending their own regulations. We already had reviewed their regulations. We provided them with feedback, but they never adopted them. They continued to make more amendments. So since the last time that you reviewed this and we provided
So
the comments,
what-
they've made more
What,
edits.
if any, role does the Concom have as far as that project for the review?
They're
that goes
very
through the spring?
involved with us and other members across the town. And they're
So
participating.
it would seem to me that not waiting, but continuing on with the process as it exists
Mhm.
would make more sense, because it's already utilizing resources and expending time, and this would jump out ahead of anything that would come from that, and potentially need to be changed either by another review of their policies or by zoning bylaw amendment.
Yeah, I think that's my own thinking about it, but I think it could also be a placeholder for something. I think there's something that they could address now about this issue, but then come back to it with more,
So I think I'm of two minds here. I'm okay with using it as a placeholder, but I'm also
Yeah.
concerned that it's not part of any larger plan to come. That doesn't mean it can't be changed. It doesn't mean we shouldn't,
right?
you know,
I think,
endorse it now.
I think that's the tension. On one hand, if they have something in place, there may be needed to use in the next year or two
Right.
before the
Mhm.
MVP process is completed. And if they don't do anything, infrastructure may go in or somebody may do something that they're not gonna undo later.
Mhm.
So I like the idea of maybe saying, take off the references at the end and say, we could say, we think this is an interim step, but we would suggest that you reconsider this and consider amending it after the
Yeah, I think
town
that's
completes the
I think that's
MVP process.
the wise position to take.
Can you live with that?
I could live with that. Yeah, no, definitely. I'm flagging it for you as something where I thought it was a little ahead of a process, and everything else I thought was things that they had gone back to and made some edits
I had two lawyer parts of it that I didn't like, that I just raised.
on here.
Yeah, no, two of the other things that they
Oh, the
changed.
other things. Okay.
One thing that they
Are we-
changed was,
Do you want me to go back to that? Are we
Yeah,
done with
what-
this?
yeah,
Okay.
one had to do with waiving costs or fees.
Mm-hmm.
And they said for good cause shown, and that's never enough language. They should always give some examples of what they mean by that. So I was concerned that it was too open-ended by just saying for good cause shown. And I think they need to add some examples or some more definition to what they mean by good cause shown. For the waiving, waiving fees for compelling reasons. I think they need to say more than compelling reasons. They need to give some examples or something about what compelling reasons are,
Mm-hmm.
or else it's too open-ended. The other thing that I didn't like,
And this is just his summary email.
I know,
but,
the other
I
thing
can
that
go to the regs if you want to talk.
I didn't like was, they changed the notification that could be provided. It used to be hand delivery or certified mail. They changed it to hand delivery or regular mail. it should say, now say, regular mail, certified mail, or regular mail, or handle
Or
it.
delivery.
It should be all three. They got rid of one of the options that some people might wanna use. Some people might wanna send it out certified. And this gets rid of it, so they shouldn't have gotten rid of certified. They should have added regular as a third option. So those are the two
Okay,
comments I had.
Okay.
thank you.
All right. Do we need to vote on any of this, or is this just a report back
I'm
to
just,
them?
if it's okay, I'll write another
I think
letter
that's fine.
on your behalf and send it to Nathaniel.
Okay.
Good.
Good.
Did you?
I had one other, I'm trying to find it.
In the
I had one
regulation?
in the other edits to the
Mm.
to the wetlands regulations. I'm trying to find it now. There was one other wording thing that jumped out at me, and now I've lost it. Shoot. It was something with the language seemed vague. But I'm not seeing it. Sorry.
You could always, if you find it, you could always email Nathaniel offline.
Yeah, I'll
That's okay too.
I'll have to look if I
Yeah,
think
if
it's
you have
important.
something, if you wanna send it to me tomorrow, that would be ideal, cause I'm gonna put together the letter tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Maybe it was the same. Actually, I think it might have been the same thing Gene cited on
Having
the
options.
waiver of fees,
Okay.
where it says upon request and demonstration of a compelling reason to do so. Yes.
Yeah, what, describe
Yeah,
what that is or
what's a
provide
yeah,
examples.
I think
What's a
that might
compelling
have been
reason?
it might have been the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that was. Oh wait, no, here we go.
Ah,
You know,
which,
Section 9.
9.
it's paragraph D. In appropriate circumstances, the commission may require, etc. What are appropriate circumstances? That was it.
Alright. Anything else?
All right. Moving on to minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Final. I didn't have any changes, but I think Andy does.
Andy does.
Mr. West sought clarity between the special permit and EDR criteria
Right.
and felt that each should be approached separately. I don't think I said that.
Not in that way, probably.
No, because I don't believe they necessarily have to be approached separately. What I'm asking is, should they be united in some way so that we have we're doing a special permit with two sections to it. And if that's okay to keep it separate, fine. If there's a way to, if they overlap in any way. I was asking a question. I wasn't just saying definitively that they should be approached separately. They already
Okay.
are. Just like we
I'm
did
just reading the language to see how,
Just like we did tonight, you listed them.
yeah,
One is part of the zoning application, the other is part of the EDR.
right. How would you like to reword
That's a very
this?
good question.
Yeah,
Right now, I want to leave it as it is till I understand a better way to do it. I don't want to fix something that's potentially not broken. It was just a little confusing to me.
You could just end it
Yeah.
after the word criteria.
Oh,
and-
for this
Yeah.
purpose?
yeah,
Sorry.
just for the
And get-
minutes, I'm sorry,
You could end
not
it,
forever.
you could end it after the, you could end
don't
the
need to-
sentence,
Just for the
We
meeting.
don't need to
you
read
could end
over
the
this.
sentence after the word criteria and leave out the rest of the
Yeah,
sentence.
just leave it
I
out
could
the
also
rest,
just say questioned,
Yeah.
rather than felt that,
You sought to clarify, it's fine, just say,
or something.
then take out that whole thing after criteria.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sorry about that, yeah, I thought we were talking about the real thing for a minute.
no, not right now. We
Moving
could,
on,
but-
moving on,
Okay.
that's it.
All right,
Ken?
No.
David? Gene? All right.
Motion to approve minutes as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any other business?
Can we talk about when the January meetings will be?
Yes, let me just ask a question. Do you want the, okay, so last time you wanted the meeting minutes with the amendment to come back to you. So I'll bring that back to the next meeting. That's what you had asked for, and then you would vote on them
Oh.
with the new language.
We just voted on it, though.
You already voted on it.
We just voted
Yeah,
on it.
because
Yeah,
this is just
well,
a
I think-
minor change.
So is that
I think
okay
with,
for
with
you?
that
I'm
one,
just
it was
thinking-
because
I'm
there was a
just
substantive
wanna clarify
change.
for
This is,
myself, so I know what to do.
Yeah, this is easy.
this is just taking out a chunk
Yeah,
of
So
that's
words.
the
just
amended
delete-
minutes will be
delete
posted
everything
then as the legal minutes.
Just after my name.
Just give us a blank sheet of paper.
Okay. The January meetings, when
Well,
are they?
actually, can you just go to the December ones too, just,
The December ones are December 4th and December 18th. And you will have hearings, I believe, both evenings.
I was holding the 11th in December.
The 11th was for if we were going to have the hearing for zoning recodification. That's what December 11th was going to be for.
So we
That's
don't
off.
need that.
I don't think you need to hold it anymore. If I have to use a different date, I'll ask you. But at the moment, I don't see that happening because we don't have enough time between now and then to post anything.
Yeah. Oh, and I don't have any January meetings on here yet.
Yeah, so they're in the notice agenda. Wait, do you want me to go to it?
I have to, I don't know, I have it saved.
Oh, okay.
It's like some weird back-end link.
Amy has a weird back-end link to notice agenda, so I can't.
not going there.
I can't
Yeah,
show that
yes, I can-
here right now.
I can do a formal.
I
email
believe
it
though
out.
it's January 8th and
22nd.
whatever that next, yeah. It would be,
Because
well,
the 15th
I
is
have-
Martin Luther
is
King.
that
January
the holiday?
3rd?
Yeah,
No,
no,
it's not a day.
it's not that day.
That's a Wednesday.
That's a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's on the town calendar.
Why is it on town? Wednesday.
So we're gonna be the 8th and the 22nd.
I believe it's the 8th and the 22nd, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
It's definitely not a Wednesday.
It's happened before.
Next,
I'm gonna look.
I'm teaching Wednesday nights next semester, so I'm not gonna do that on Wednesday.
We're not gonna meet on Wednesday.
I know, that's good too. So we'll go.
Yeah, we don't have our meetings up yet, actually.
But they'll be the 8th and the 22nd.
So-
Okay.
Are you on this town calendar? Are you on the A or B calendar?
I'm on the ARB calendar.
Oh, okay, well, we'll get that changed, because this is the town calendar,
there
and
it is.
we actually didn't post anything here. That one will have to change. Okay.
They
These two are
certainly
linked.
do.
Jeez.
All right, so the 8th and the 22nd.
So-
no other days, right?
No other days, no.
Yeah.
What do you want some more days?
No, I just, these next 2 months are gonna be
This is gonna be
not a
more.
good,
Yeah, there's going to be more, because if we're going to get to town meeting, there will likely be other meetings and other hearing nights. So, the official 2 meetings would be the 8th and the 22nd. And then we'll send around the proposed meeting schedule for 2018. I was actually gonna do that for the next meeting, have you vote on the schedule.
Okay.
There's always the Monday night conflicts.
Okay.
So,
Move to adjourn?
second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.